Good evening, everyone, and we should get started here. My name is Jesse Laris, and this evening what we'll be talking about is the beginning of your research, effective use of Google and Wikipedia. This is one of the presentations that I've put together in what I call the Undergraduate Success Series. This is by no means exclusively for undergraduates. It's just some of the things that I've witnessed or seen in teaching a Communications 106 course for Argosy University online. I've been teaching with Argosy University since about 2009, and I've been with Argosy University Twin Cities since 2001. Before I get started, I'd like everyone to know that this webinar is being recorded, so I have placed everyone on mute. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask by using the chat box function or the question function in your toolbar. After the 15 minutes are over, I will allow 5 minutes for questions. If your question is not answered or if you have a follow-up question after the presentation, please feel free to reach out to me at the contact information you see there. You can either send me an email or give me a phone call. I will respond. Also, if you have any other questions, or if you have any other ideas for webinars, please feel free to email those to me and I'll forward them and we'll see if we can get those put together. As I mentioned before, what we're going to talk about is effective use of Google and Wikipedia. And if you were in our first session, you've heard this already, but one of the things that librarians are tasked with doing is helping students become more information literate. And one of the things we talked about before are the components of an information literate person. This evening, here are the 5 criteria or 5 characteristics of an information literate person. And what we're going to focus on is the ability to access information effectively and efficiently and then evaluate it critically. We're going to talk about how to use some of the resources that are out there on the internet for you. One of the things that we want to talk about is in Google. Now, Google, there are many pros and cons of using Google or any internet website or search engine. Many students use Google. I've used Google myself. Some of the pros of using Google are there's a lot of information and you can access it quickly. They do include Google scholarly articles. You can see these in Google Scholar. You also can get books through Google as well. They have Google Books. Some of the cons, though, are that typically you have to pay for the information. So if you wanted to get an article, this is an article that I looked for earlier on information. If I want to get hold of this article, I have to pay anywhere at $19, $20 to get that through Google. If I wanted to, if I wanted to get a book through Google, I could find one and did search for one on information literacy. And so if I scroll down, I can see it shows me the table of contents, which is great. I might find a chapter in here that I want to look at, so I want to view the whole thing. Once I click on that, what I find is that some of the information is not available. If I scroll down, I'll see that, okay, I've got a lot of the table of contents or the introduction of the book, but if I go down to the actual pages, like page 5 here, they're saying that I should buy this book. And so I can go out and buy it from any of these other retailers that are out there. And so it's very interesting. A couple of years ago, I was listening to a podcast, and the speaker in that podcast said that we need to realize that we're not Google's clients, we're actually their product. And I've read subsequent articles about this as well, that Google takes our information and gives it to ad companies, and that's how they generate revenue. One of the things that Google can do is track where you are going, what are you searching for. They have this thing called Google Ads, and if you look off to the side here, it's showing that my gender, this is my computer. I'm a male between the ages of 35 and 44. Languages are unknown. I was using a translator, an online translator, and yesterday it said my languages were German because I was using a German translator. Some of my interests, I could go through all the interests that are listed here, so on and so forth. So, for instance, if you had a computer at home and your son was using it and he was looking at Legos or Star Wars, it might say male, age 12, so on and so forth. So it can be very scary realizing just how much you're being tracked with the stuff that you put on the internet. And also, Google, I looked up, we have a database called Hoovers, and in 2012, Google made $50 billion. That's not million, that's billion dollars. Google is not they don't manufacture anything really. They don't have a warehouse essentially. They're just selling ad space for the most part, correct? And they've made $50 billion. That is incredible. What sites do you get as a result? You can conduct a search within Google and get all kinds of results. You're not sure sometimes what is credible, what's not credible. You do one search for one term, you can come back with 20 million results. And citing is always suspect. And this is one of the things I've had students go out and find information in Google. So for Communications 105, students are asked to go out and find what is an operating system. And if they were going to use scholarly resources for this particular paper, I wouldn't tell them that they could use .coms, all right, because .com stands for commercial. So some student found this website. First of all, I don't know when it was published. There's no information about a date here. If I scroll down, I don't see a date here as well. It could go on to the last page and see maybe there's a citation, but I'm sure it's not APA. And the other piece to this, too, is that if we look around, there's all kinds of ads that are popping up around here. So I'm really cautious about using this in my research. If I go and look at the credibility of these authors, say for instance I check on Dave Kustin or Kustin, it brings me to the website here, and I can click on the section to who he is, what he does, and what it'll tell me is that he does have education, that he did go to the Columbia College of Columbia University, and then to Emerson College, but it looks like he was only there 2 years, and I don't know what degree he obtained. If I look over here, there's education or his work and his employment. Excuse me. It says he's a content strategist, but then he also says that he's a crafter, maker, baker, pizza spice shaker. Very witty, but I don't know, what are his credentials and why he should be writing on this topic. And then the other day I was watching television, and I noticed I saw a commercial for Scroogled.com, and don't go to Scroogle because that is actually a bad website, but Scroogled is a website, and what happens is they're talking about how Google is spamming its own Gmail, so they're putting ads in Gmail already, their own email. So if we scroll down this page, however, notice that this was something that was created by Microsoft, and that it looks like they're trying to promote their own Outlook and Bing websites. So very interesting. Oops. Okay. And then also you have to be very careful what you put on the internet. For instance, I don't know if you've heard the story of the husband who was checking his Facebook account and found that his wife's face had come up on a dating ad. And what had happened was she didn't set her privacy setting, so she had very loose privacy settings, so someone was able to come in, take her photo, and then use it in an ad for a dating service. Imagine if your significant other's face popped up on Match.com, one morning. So we really need to be careful with what we put on the internet. Also, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Target targets pregnant women. And what they do is they can tell what trimester a woman is in by what she's buying in the store. So if she's in her first trimester, she's buying zinc, multivitamins, so on and so forth. If she's in her second trimester, she's buying furniture, or baby's room. And if she's in her last trimester, she's buying lots of chemicals to clean the house with. Well, the story is that the father comes into Target and says he's very upset because his daughter is getting all these emails for Huggies coupons, and so he's very irate. He leaves the store in a huff. The manager of the store calls back, or they get in contact a couple of days later, and the manager's very apologetic, says, "Sorry, sir, I didn't know this was happening." And the father says, "Well, there are some things happening in our house that we didn't know about." And apparently his daughter was pregnant, and Target knew about it before the dad did. So just some things to take into consideration when you're going out onto the internet and using that is that, you might think that you're just going out there for research, but people are watching you. So, okay, let's talk about using Google effectively. First of all, if you're in Google, you can restrict your searches to specific domains. If you use site : and then the domain name of .edu or .gov, it will restrict your search to only those websites. So you'll only get educational websites if you use that. If you put your information in quotes as opposed to just typing it in there, I did a search for information literacy, and I got 71.8 million results, but when I put it in quotation marks, I got 2.6 million. Now, that's because it's just looking for those various terms, but if you use quotes, you can be more specific. If you want to exclude terms, you can use the minus sign with whatever those terms are, like not K through 12 or teenager. If you use the or, that will expand your search. So if you want to include more than one term, you can do that as well. Those are just some things that you can use within Google to help be more effective. Let's talk a little bit about Wikipedia. The good, the bad, and the ugly. First of all, Wikipedia was set out to be a free website where the guy was trying to do a good deed and collect all this information. It's not a bad place to start your research, but you should never really cite it as a source. The bad, anyone can change it. You're probably aware of this, that you can go in and create an account and then start changing the information that's in there. There are hoaxes that are perpetrated in Wikipedia, and we'll just list them, but if you go to Google Wikipedia hoaxes, there's a whole method out there. And so they found which we need to be careful with the credibility of Wikipedia. And then also there was a study that was conducted a couple of years ago where they looked at medical dosages for that were listed in Wikipedia and the physician's desk reference. And what they found was that there's a 20% chance of inaccuracy in Wikipedia, and as opposed to the physician's desk reference, which there's only about a 5 to 4% chance of inaccuracy. And lastly, don't use it because your instructors really don't want you to use it. They don't really think it's a scholar source anyway. So what can you do? Never cite it as a source. Instructors typically don't let you use encyclopedias anyway. Beware of a single source and check the credentials. So if you go to a website or if you go to Wikipedia as your starting point, take a look to make sure that in the references section it's not all from one book or so on and so forth. Check the original source, and I'll show you that right now. I don't know if you've had a chance to look into Wikipedia for this, but if you scroll down the page, I looked at information literacy was the term that I looked at. If I scroll down the page, the line is that there's a list of different references towards the bottom, and you can typically click on one of them. Say, for instance, this looks like a PDF document. It was retrieved 2012. These are information literacy standards for students. This was put out by the American Association for School Librarians. Okay, it's not there. Bad example. Let's flip back here. So I'll go to what is the NFIL, retrieved October 25th, so it was only last year. All right, now this is a .org, so we want to be careful with it, but it's in the bottom section. It tells us who they are. There's probably contact information at the bottom of the page, which is very important. Lastly, in the last presentation, we talked about the 5 criteria for evaluating a website. You can use those with the websites that are listed in here as well. So wrapping it up, remember that you are not Google's client. You are their product. They take your information, they sell it to put ads on your screen. Be careful with what you put on the internet. Your information is being used. People are watching you out there. Google, use the site : to do searches for specific domains. And then Wikipedia, follow your references. So, all right, well, that ends the presentation here, and this is really we're flying at, 30,000 feet. We have a great overview of all these things, but we didn't really delve into anything in any great detail. But if you have questions at this time, I'll reserve 5 minutes so we can go over those. Please feel free to use the questions box and type in your questions. I'd rather do it that way. I find it's a little quicker in answering the questions and getting feedback or garnering feedback. Again, if you have questions that come up after this presentation, or if you have specific questions about specific databases or issues or problems or whatever, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. If you send me an email, I can usually get back to you with maybe some good suggestions of websites to go to, or ways to search, to give me an email. We can sit down and talk, and I can walk you through how to search the different databases. I'm open to do that as well. And I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, but what I plan to do at the end, but tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to send everyone who signed up for this presentation the PowerPoint slides. I'm also going to upload onto YouTube the presentation, so it'll be available for everybody. And